Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar on online safety and children's digital well-being. It's great to have you here. I think we'll give it a few minutes just to give all of our live attendants, or rather the attendants who will be joining us live, the opportunity to join us here. My name is Teodora. I'm the Director of Wellbeing at Linewize. I'm really happy to be presenting to you on this topic today. For all of you who are watching a recording, this was a live webinar, so we want to give just a few minutes there for parents and caregivers to join us. What I will do while we wait is invite Dave to unmute himself and just say a few words of welcome. Hi, Dave.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for the invite. This was great. I'm Dave Moon, everybody. I'm the technology director for the school district. You've probably met me. I'm super excited that as a school district, we're able to bring you guys this valuable tool. I think your families will find it very valuable, actually. I just want to make sure that everybody out there knows that we're here for you. The technology department is here for you. So if you have any follow-up questions, either after this or anytime in the future, excuse me, you are absolutely welcome to reach out and ask away. My door is always open. Feel free to. We here take internet safety pretty seriously. We know for you at home, it can be tricky and even confusing. So I think this partnership that we're building with Linewize is going to help us and you navigate all that trickiness, because it is kind of crazy. So with that being said, thank you for being here. I have to jet off to another meeting, but I stayed for the first one earlier this afternoon, and I think you will all find this content very valuable.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. As Dave mentioned, this is the second webinar that we're presenting to the Sultan SD parents and caregivers and families. We're really excited to be here. We absolutely share that same sentiment that, you know, technology is moving at incredibly fast rates and paces and getting ahead of us. And we all feel very strongly, of course, about children's online safety. And so we want to make sure that, again, through this partnership, we can provide your student community with safety outside of just sort of the simple internet filter, which of course is in place already, but we're really here to talk about all of the other ways in which we can really empower the whole community. As I mentioned, I'm the Director of Wellbeing at Linewize. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I've also worked a lot with families around digital wellness and healthy technology use as a parenting coach. And I'm really excited to share with you some of those actionable steps and some of the strategies that you can implement in order to help your children stay safer and healthier online. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Greg now to do an introduction and to cover the first few slides for us. And then I'll be back again in a few minutes.
Thank you, Teodora. Hey, everybody. My name is Greg Hall. I'm the Director of Community here at Linewize. My background is K-12 education. I spent I was going to say about 20 years. I spent exactly 20 years working in public schools in Arizona and North Carolina. I was a classroom teacher for 8 years and then spent the remaining 12 years in administration. I was a high school principal at a large district outside of the Charlotte area here in North Carolina, and was the principal of that high school when one day all of a sudden we had a device in the hands of all 1,600 students. And as a district, it was a very interesting experience to get beyond just the management of those devices, but understand how we're going to properly supervise those devices and make sure parents have the tools to support those devices. I am the father of a 12-year-old who has her own device now as she's in sixth grade. So it is a topic that I'm very interested in, and very happy to have some time to spend with you today to talk about the tools that Sultan is providing for you to help partner with you in the endeavor of keeping our young people safe online. So for this evening, our agenda is as follows. Teodora is going to share with us the first resource that has been created by your district for you to have access to, which is our online safety hub. Teodora will give us a walkthrough of that online safety hub. It is essentially a reference library chock full of well-vetted resources and information all on the topic of digital wellness and digital safety. And she'll share with you the components of that online safety hub, as well as show you how to access the safety hub. She will then speak to the topic of student safety and well-being in the digital world, based on her experience working with parents, working with young people on this topic over many years. She will identify and share with you some key online safety risks for you to be aware of, and share with you a way of thinking about online safety and approaching digital safety with your child that I've found very, very useful in my own personal life. And that is the ABC of online safety management. She'll share with us what that means, the components of each of those letters, the A, the B, and the C, and tips and guidance for you to help support your child in their digital journey. And then I will have an opportunity to speak briefly with you about a second resource made available to you by your school district called the Qustodio parental app, a very cool tool that you have access to, so you have some visibility into how your child is using a school issue device, as well as the ability to put a web filter and have some parental controls on personal devices. So I'll be back with you in a few minutes to share that piece. When Sultan partners with Linewize, all in the spirit of creating a safer digital experience for your students, part of that includes what we call our digital wellness community program. Within this program, there are 3 pillars or 3 components that are provided for your community via the school district. The first, we're in sort of a metacognitive sort of way, we're in the middle of it right now. Parent webinars are one of those components. And having somebody with the expertise and background of Teodora available to speak to you on a topic of digital safety and digital wellness. The other 2 are the online safety hub, which Teodora will walk us through, a resource, a reference library of blog posts, articles, tutorials, technical advice, all aimed at a parent audience for you to have access to in one easy to access place. And then finally, the Qustodio parent app, a tool that you can put into action right away to not only have some visibility to the school issue device, but personal devices as well. So all of these are being brought to you through your school district with their partnership with Linewize. So if you would like to take a moment and access the first piece of those 3 pillars, you can scan this QR code here, or go to the URL that Teodora just put into the chat. This will take you to your school district's online safety hub. And we'll give everybody just a moment to get there on their phone or on their device. And then Teodora, I'll hand it back over to you to take us through what exists in there.
Perfect. Sounds good, Greg. Thank you. So yeah, a few different ways that you can access the hub. You can scan this QR code if you like. As Greg mentioned, I did also drop it inside the chat. So if you give me a second, I'm just going to switch up my screens so that I can take you into your district's hub. There we go. Share back again. All right, so here we are. In case you're not familiar, this is the landing page of your school district's online safety hub. You'll see there the sort of the familiar colors, the logo of your school district, and then a little welcome message there as well from your superintendent. So along the this sort of top banner here, you'll see that the content of the hub is separated out into a few of these different sections. The About area is going to give you a little bit of information on myself and some of the other in-house subject matter experts who are a part of Linewize and who curate and create all the content that you're going to see inside the online safety hub. We have our app and game review section, where at this point we have north of about 300 different apps, social media apps, gaming platforms that we've reviewed at this point, and we're always reviewing more and always uploading more for you here. If you have any suggestions for any other app or game or platform that we perhaps haven't reviewed yet, you can definitely let us know through this request review button. But this is a really, really great section for you. I think this is a really good first place to start as well with the online safety hub. As Greg mentioned, we also have a section where we share some technical information and instructions with you. This is one of the sort of most hated aspects for many parents, when it comes to parenting in the age of technology, they don't like the fact that they have to fiddle around with parental controls, set up privacy settings, all these different things. So instructions on all of those sit within the online safety tech area. The parent advice area is where really the bulk of our content sits. As Greg mentioned, we have tutorials, we have guides, we have different blogs, we have age-specific advice for you as well, PDF formatted templates, lots of different things that you can check out here. I'll definitely encourage you, when you have a few minutes to go ahead and explore. You can see that we cover all sorts of different topics, all the major platforms that your children might be frequenting. We cover topics such as ChatGPT, children self-diagnosing on TikTok, the life of an influencer, all sorts of different things. As I mentioned, we have age-specific advice as well. This is where some of our PDF templates sit in this rules and agreements section. So there's definitely a lot there for you to explore. Towards the end of this presentation, Greg will be talking to you a little bit about Qustodio, the parental control app, which has its own dedicated tab in here. So this is where you'll be able to find some information about the app itself. And then we have some related sort of guides and blogs here as well, just in case you're interested in some of those topics as well. But again, this is where you'll be able to learn more. There's a button here you can click to create your account. And again, both within the parent advice section and that app and game review section, we have little buttons that you can click that you can use to let us know that you would like us to create some more content for you that perhaps you're just not seeing in the Online Safety Hub just yet. So I'm going to go back into sharing our deck right now. If you just give me 1 second, and we'll continue our presentation. All right, there we go. So when we think about the why in terms of, why we do what we do, not only at Linewize as an organization, but really why Greg and I and other members of our smaller team also do what we do, which is really to get the community educated and engaged in this topic. These are some of the sort of the trends and the movements that we're seeing in the post-COVID era. We've obviously seen this unraveling during the COVID era, but some of this we already saw traces of even before, I would say over the past sort of 5 even to 10 years. So we definitely know that we've seen this downward trend of the quality of young people's mental health and well-being. We're seeing increased sort of rates of reportings on depression, on anxiety, everything to self-harm and sort of suicidal thoughts as well with younger and younger children as well. And we have seen this upward trend of the time spent online, the use of our devices. And this doesn't just apply to children, this applies to adults as well. And so this inevitably leads us to ask questions around what is it that is happening for children in these virtual spaces, and how can we meet them there in order to really find out what is happening and to really be able to tease apart the good from the bad, because there is both the good and the bad there. There are both great benefits to children being connected online, of course, but there are some risks there that we need to be aware of. And one of the ones that certainly stand out for teenagers in the US is bullying. And so we know that there's quite a high percentage, a high proportion of young people in the US who have experienced some form of bullying or harassment. And when it comes to sort of the importance of engaging the parent community, in particular engaging families around some of these topics, the key reason is that research over and over again has shown us that parents are not really that much in the know when it comes to the negative online experiences that their children are experiencing. We know that a majority of parents are not really that engaged in some of these issues around data privacy, around technology use. They're just simply not aware. And so part of our mission here at Linewize and part of our mission of sort of being in this community and well-being space is to really make sure that you as the caregivers are educated, that you're engaged, that you understand what is going on for young people online, and that through this education and this awareness, you're really a lot more confident to step in and to really accompany your young people along for their digital journeys, which, as I mentioned, will have lots and lots of benefits, and there'll be some fantastic, incredibly important sort of milestones that your children will reach through their online interactions. But of course, we know there's some key risks there as well. And so collectively here at Linewize, we've spent many, many years working with young people all around the world not just, sorry, in the US. And this is a sort of a result, not just of our work, but really other organizations similar to ours, other experts around the world who work together to identify some of the key issues that children might face online and some of the key online safety risks. We share these because we feel that it's important for parents to be aware of them. It's important for you to be aware that these are some of the potential problems your children might run into. And it's incredibly important that you have a sense of what these look like online, and that you then know what are the first sort of key 3 to say 5 steps that I need to take if I find out that my child has been exposed to online bullying, or perhaps they're either starting to think or have conversations around sexting and nudes. Perhaps they've already sent a nudes to somebody. This isn't to say that every single child is going to experience one of these risks, and that this is a threat that is sort of looming behind every single corner online for your child, right? That's absolutely not the idea with these online safety risks. We just want to make sure that as a parent, you know what's sort of what's out there, what are some of the possible problems that your children might face, and to sort of know how to equip yourself with the necessary tools that you need in order to address these should they ever happen, and they may never happen, of course. So the Online Safety Hub has lots of information about all of these different online safety risks. Again, if you do find that you would like to have additional information about any of these after you've visited the Online Safety Hub, please use that request an article button in order to get a little bit of information. What we also do here at Linewize is, outside of delivering these shorter sort of 30 to 35-minute webinars, we do also do longer, more in-depth webinars where I have the opportunity to talk a little bit more about some of these online safety risks. And so we'll certainly be planning for some of these for your school district. So I want to go into sharing some of these actionable steps and strategies with you. So we're talking about the ABC approach to online safety management. We've made it pretty simple, pretty straightforward. These 3 letters stand for managing access, setting some boundaries, and then openly communicating as well. So to begin with, when we're talking about managing access, we're really talking about managing what your child has access to on their device, as well as when they have access to it. So that time factor is still quite important in this conversation. Our main tip there is to use parental control tools. When your children are younger, it's certainly adequate to just use very, very simple, very basic, free parental control tools that you might easily access online. As your child gets older and they become a little bit more complicated as a person, their internet use will also follow suit. And so the types of activities that they want to engage in, the types of platforms that they'll want to engage in, these are going to become a little bit more complex as well, going all the way up to things like TikTok and similar types of platforms. So you want to make sure that you're using the appropriate types of parental controls. And when your child is younger, you can certainly take on a more sort of dominant role in terms of blocking, just outright blocking their access to certain places online that you know are going to be dangerous or just inappropriate for them. But again, as your child grows, they become a little bit more complex. They want more sort of independence and an ability to make some of their own decisions around their own online safety. You want to sort of loosen up a little bit and really engage them in that conversation more, and make sure that it's a little bit more of a sort of true conversation, perhaps at times even a little bit of a negotiation when it comes to managing their access. So you definitely want to make sure that you give them that voice increasingly as they get older, and enable them to manage their own screen time as well. We, of course, will always recommend that you refer to the Online Safety Hub, especially when it comes to different platforms that your child wants to access. Some of the research, again, coming out of both Europe and the US when it comes to age restrictions around games and social media platforms, has shown that around sort of 60 to 70% of parents don't actually realize that a lot of platforms do have these age restrictions. So it's incredibly important that you're aware of the fact that different platforms will give your children access to different things, to different types of users online, to different types of contents. And not all of these will be equally appropriate for, say, your 4-year-old as compared to your 9-year-old and your 12-year-old and at one point your 20-year-old as well. So you can always use the Online Safety Hub to sort of figure out what some of these age recommendations are. And then finally, using any of those sort of inbuilt native tools, internet filters, things like enabling Google Safe Search. There's YouTube restricted mode there as well. And again, that tech section that I referred to inside the Online Safety Hub, that tech tab, is going to be the place where you'll find instructions on how to enable Google Safe Search and YouTube restricted mode and manage parental controls on other devices and inside other operational systems as well. Moving on from talking about access, we're now talking about boundaries, right? Probably one of the most difficult things that parents need to do as they raise their children. So setting some clear boundaries, in this case, around screen time, around device use. But more so than that, we're also talking about the expectations that you have of your children's online behavior. And this isn't that dissimilar to some of the conversations that we have with them when it comes to their offline behavior, right? We have certain expectations of how we behave, say, at home versus the public, versus being in public, how we behave in front of, say, siblings and family, as compared to how we behave in front of strangers, how we behave in front of our peers, as compared to how we behave in front of the elderly, or people who are older than us, our aunts and uncles and our grandparents. And so these same conversations really just sort of have been transported into the virtual space. Those conversations around do we and how do we interact with strangers are equally relevant offline as they are online as well. So these are the types of conversations that I would encourage you to start thinking about having when it comes to your children's online activities, as well as those offline ones, because it's highly unlikely that you haven't spoken to them about some of these things when it comes to their offline lives. So one of the really great tools that can kind of help you start out with some of these conversations is referred to sometimes as a digital contract, family contract, a tech agreement. Inside the Online Safety Hub, we refer to these as tech agreements. And you'll see there that we have age-appropriate PDF templates that you can open up. You can download them. You can print them out if you'd like to as well. And you can really use them to help you establish some of those clear rules about device use, about online behavior, if you don't have some of these rules already. What I always recommend when it comes to these digital contracts is that, again, as your child sort of grows and their world, both offline and online, expands, that you also allow that digital contract to sort of grow and expand with them. You want to slowly start giving them a little bit more independence, a little bit more room to, again, make their own decisions, and to really enable them to start applying all of those learnings about how to keep themselves safe online, to start doing some of that for themselves. And these digital contracts are a really nice way to do that, and to kind of have them grow as your children are growing as well. It's incredibly important to create those boundaries around technology use when it comes to when we do and don't use our devices, when the devices are switched on and when they're switched off. And when it comes to kids, I always like to sort of use that phrase or that concept of sleep being sacred. We all know your pediatricians would have told you about this over and over again, how incredibly important sleep is. For generally the human brain, but especially for the brain of a developing human. And so we want to really set up those clear off times before bedtime. We typically recommend a minimum of sort of 30 minutes before children go to bed. And we really want to make sure that we limit device use in bedrooms. This can be incredibly difficult to do because most of us grown-ups keep some type of a device in the bedroom as well. We know that a lot of young people are woken up throughout the night by various types of messages and notifications and all sorts of pings that come from their phones. This can be incredibly detrimental to their development, to their psychological state, their mood. At the very least, they're going to be very cranky. And so we really want to make sure that we create that very sort of clear separation between, this is your bedroom, this is a device-free zone at night. And then during the daytime, obviously, you can set up any kinds of rules that you like when it comes to your children using their devices in their bedrooms. One thing I will say is that, again, for younger children, we tend to discourage them sitting in their rooms and engaging in a lot of solitary use of devices that sort of have full access to the internet. So that's another thing that I would just sort of say, recommend to be mindful of. Finally, one of the most difficult things, again, that parents often find when they're trying to encourage some kind of behavior or change behavior in their children is to really model that same behavior that they want to see. It sounds a lot easier said than done. But we do find that children, especially when they're younger, learn a lot more when they observe us, even though we tend to sort of bark a lot of instructions at them. We tend to give them a lot of verbal instructions in terms of what we want them to do. What we find is that if we show them through our actions what we want them to do, they're a lot more likely to sort of follow suit, because there's a lot less of that. There's just a lot less of that sort of locking horns and being in disagreement with each other. So, for example, if you decide that you want to have device-free zones in the home, if you decide that you want to have, device-free or screen-free meals, if you create a rule in your home that when we're speaking to each other, we don't text at the same time, the best way that you can convey this to your child, that this is your expectation of them, is to do the same thing yourself. And when you have younger children, you can also verbalize this as you're doing it and say, I'm going to switch off my phone right now, or I'm going to put my phone in a different room because, we're about to play Scrabble, or we're about to watch something on television together as a family, or we're about to eat together, whatever the case is. But the more that you can model that behavior, the more likely it is that your child will really absorb it, and then that they'll repeat it through a kind of mirroring process. And then third and final here, before I hand it over to Greg, is the C component, which is perhaps the most critical one. And this is that conversation piece. So really making sure that this whole topic of online safety, which is a really, really wide one, it's a very fertile ground for having a lot of conversations about this, but making sure that it's something that's talked about a lot in your home. We typically find that children who do have more positive experiences online, who tend to experience fewer negative experiences, fewer risks online, are children who live in homes where this is talked about quite often. So we'll typically ask them around how their day was in school, and how was the sleepover, and what did you do when you went to the mall, or at that play date, how was, again, the bus ride home. But we don't often ask questions that are specific to their online experiences. Did you have fun playing Fortnite today? What were some new things that you built? What were some new skills that you acquired that you weren't able to even perform or even dream about performing yesterday? Was there a really funny TikTok that you saw? Was there some drama on Snapchat, right? There are lots of different questions that we can ask, but a lot of times we just don't know to ask them because we're not entirely sure of what our kids are even doing on these platforms. So, but there's lots of room there to find lots of really great conversation starters. We want to really show our kids that we're actively, curiously, positively engaged in what they're doing online. We want to be taught, we want to be educated, we want to know what's going on, and we want to use some of these communication strategies with them when we do talk about both the good and the bad of the internet. So we want to make sure that we can really help them with problem solving. For example, if there's an online bullying incident, we really want to show up for them and let them know that we're a resource that will help them achieve their ideal outcome any way that we can, leaving a lot of space for them to come in and share their experiences with us, be non-judgmental with them, and really try as much as possible to talk with them as opposed to at them, which of course is a trap we fall into all the time, and that's completely fine, but we just want to try and sort of self-correct as much as possible, especially when it comes to this topic of online safety, because of course they're digital natives and they understand and know the internet in a completely different way than we do. So with that, I'm going to take a little break and hand it over to Greg.
Thank you, Teodora. Every time I hear you speak on this topic, I'm just there's just bits and pieces that I know I need to apply in my own parenting. And when you talk about modeling the behavior that you want to see, like I'm embarrassed at how much it almost pains me inside that I'm like, I need to make some changes, right? That are going to be a little bit uncomfortable for me if I really want my daughter to see how I hope she's engaging with her own personal technology. So thank you for sharing all of that. In addition to the online safety hub, your school district is providing you with a parent app. We call this app Qustodio, and you have the ability to create an account for free right now. So I'll speak a little bit to this slide, but within the online safety hub that Teodora shared with you, in the top left section, there is a link called Parental Control App. In that drop-down menu, there's a link that says create your account. You can sign up for Qustodio at any time. And what this will do is a couple of things. First of all, your school district uses a very very strong internet filter for the school issued devices that is protecting your children from being exposed to inappropriate material online. So it filters categories like pornography, adult content, gambling, extreme violence, all of these categories. So that is constantly working on your school issued device. Um, when you connect to your Qustodio parent app, you will have the ability on the school issued device to, in addition to the filter that's already in place, see a 7-day summary of most used apps and websites that your child has gone to or used on the school issued device, as well as a summary of most used categories. So, out of all of the sites visited, out of all the internet activity that your child engages in, you'll see the top categories as well as the top apps and websites over a 7-day period. Your district is also providing you with the ability to pause the internet on that school issued device outside of school hours. So in addition to the web filter that's working in the background and keeping inappropriate content away from your children on the school issued device, you have the visibility of that 7-day summary of websites, categories, and apps, as well as a pause button. But an even cooler part of this is that you can get that same type of web filtering that's being applied to the school issued device for 2 personal devices in your home for free. So you can connect your child's iPhone, your family owned Chromebook, uh, Mac computer, PC. I have my daughter's Kindle connected to a Qustodio. But when you create that account for the school device, you will have the option. It'll walk you right through it in the app to connect to personal devices. And when you do that, you get the same summary visibility and the pause button that you do for the school issued device. But in addition, you get a customizable web filter. So just like the district uses to protect the school issued device, on your personally owned devices, you can set filtering rules. You can block inappropriate categories. You can decide what categories of internet content will be allowed or blocked. It will also allow you to set time limits by day for internet activity and also set offline schedules. So, periods of time where you don't wish your child to be able to have internet access. All of that is completely free for 2 family devices. You will have also an activity feed that shows you a time-stamped activity trail of websites visited by your child on the personal device, searches that are done, videos that have been watched, and anything they've been blocked from. So um, really cool resource. Highly encourage you to either hop on over to the Online Safety Hub and create an account and try it out on a couple of devices. There is a premium or upgraded paid version for personal devices that would extend to more than just 2 devices. So if you wanted to add 3 more, so 5 total or unlimited, there's a couple of plans for that. There's also a plan that gives you more features like location tracking, the ability to view phone calls and text messages, some more granular controls over YouTube and apps. Those are all options which are discussed within the app itself. But when you create that account, when you connect 2 personal devices, you get a trial of all of those premium features for 30 days. And if you choose not to upgrade to any of those, the system, your app will just default back to those 3 main pieces of the web filter, activity or timeline, daily time limits, restricted times, and the activity feed, which are extremely useful, and all under the concept of when you have visibility as a parent and when your child knows that you have visibility into what's going on their device, they're more likely to stay on track, less likely to get themselves in trouble. But certainly as a parent, at the earliest sign of concern, you're able to engage and support your child before something becomes a bigger problem. So excited for all of you to try that out if you haven't already. And actually, I think it's right there. I'm sorry. You can, if you don't do it through the Online Safety Hub, you can scan that QR code and get there as well. So I'll hand it back over to you, Teodora, to close us out. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. We did actually have one question come in. And if any of you have any questions, obviously those of you who are joining us live, please feel free to to go ahead and use the Q&A function. So you can do that. I think we'll give it maybe sort of 15 or 20 seconds. I know we've gone a little bit over time, just in case any of you have any questions. We did have a question come in from Mark. Greg, I'm assuming I know the answer to it, but I'll let you address it. When will Qustodio be available on Android?
I believe it is currently, and I just want to double check while we wrap up. I'm actually going to log into my account just to make sure that I don't misspeak on that, but I think that already does exist.
Sure. Yeah, I believe it does as well. That was my first thought as well when I saw Mark's question, but I just thought we better confirm that just to make sure that we're correct, because I know there's a whole series of, you mentioned your daughter's Kindle as well. So there's a few different devices and operating systems there.
Yeah,
that are covered.
I'm just going to scroll down the list again here in just one second, but I think it's just about everything I could think of.
Sure.
All right. And it's the steps to do that are essentially the same for everything. It's go into the appropriate app store, download the Qustodio app on the student device or the child's device, and then follow a couple of instructions. Sorry, I wasn't set up to hop in here, and it's
that's all right.
Asking me for like triple
no problem. What I might do while you're doing that is I'll go back into the hub for just a second and just show everyone that tab again that you were referring to earlier, where everyone can go in order to create an account. So we're back on the landing page. This is the parental control app tab that Greg was referring to. This is the drop down that we have, and you have this create your account button right here. And again, as I mentioned, there are a lot of different help topics here that you can click on in order to learn a little bit more about all of these different points that Greg covered already. But of course, you'll find a little bit more detail on each one of them. But this is the create your account button is where you'll be able to go and get everything set up.
Awesome. And Teodora, I did find the answer. It is perfect. Just about everything I can think of. So it's Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, Kindle, Chromebook. Those are the options.
Perfect. All right. Wonderful. That sounds great. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I want to thank everyone who joined us live for staying with us from start to finish. We did go a few minutes overboard, which is very easy for us to do because we can talk about this topic all day long. But we want to thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time this evening. For those of you who are joining us live, for those of you who are watching a recording of this, if you have any questions at all, if you have any ideas around what you would like to see inside the Online Safety Hub, please feel free, again, to use some of those buttons and ways of connecting with us that I showed you before. And if we have Dave there still, I know you needed to go off for a meeting, but if you're still here, Dave, I might just invite you to unmute once more. And just say goodbye to everyone before we wrap up. Dave may not be here anymore, which is perfectly fine. Let's see, there's a little message in chat. Okay, Brianne is here to cover for Dave. Perfect. Thank you so much, Brianne. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out either to Brianne or Dave or to us through the Online Safety Hub. And again, thank you so much for watching this presentation. Bye, everyone.